when we talk about discernment, there are two other areas that we have to touch on. First of all, people need to be discerning even more so today because of AI. So when you are watching something nowadays, whether it's on social media, on TV, when you're reading something, we really have to be able to be discerning to understand whether or not what we're seeing is actually the truth. People are using it for all types of things, and some people use it to mislead others. There really is a need to be discerning, to use your gut instinct, your intuition, to be perceptive. Who's saying this? Where is it from? Is it reliable? To gain insight, right? Is this a reputable source? Can I find research online to back up what I'm hearing or seeing? And then be discerning. Because with AI content or information, you can make a lot of bad decisions and think you are showing discernment. And then finally, one last point we want to make about discernment, because there is something that can throw off your ability to be discerning altogether. And it's something called coherence bias. What coherence bias means simply is that you take one situation and form an idea, an opinion on that, and then you use every other circumstance, situation, occasion to back up just that one idea or concept. So let's illustrate that. Let's say that I've had one or two female managers, and I thought that they were very controlling. They were very always telling me what to do, how to do it. They didn't allow me to be independent in my workflow. So now I take that, and now every time I interface with a manager who is a female, they might say something like, "That's great, Todd. Can you take a look at this for me?" And I'll think, there she is again. There's another female manager trying to boss me around. And if I continue to have that bias and I try to connect each and every situation, whether or not it's true, that can skew my ability to be discerning. Then my gut instinct is incorrect. My intuition is based on something that is not always correct. I can't be perceptive, and my insights are going to be off because I'll always be thinking, see, I knew she was trying to get me. I knew she was trying to trip me up. So that's something that people really need to be aware of and pay attention to. Part of being perceptive means going beneath the surface, seeing beyond what is obvious. And it's in doing that that we're allowing ourselves to break that bias that we might have. And that's part of being discerning. So now let's use one last little illustration before we wrap up this segment or this lesson. Suppose I'm part of a team, and my team lead has a smaller project, and my team lead is going to choose someone from within the team to lead that project. And so they go ahead and they say, "Todd, we're going to have you lead this project." Now, another teammate of mine, someone I'm close to, I consider a friend, all of a sudden I notice they're treating me differently. They're short with me, maybe a little irritated, it seems. So now, if I was perceptive, I would say, okay, maybe they've just had a bad day. Maybe they just got a huge bill they weren't expecting. Or if over time, the next couple of days, they persist with that type of negative vibe towards me, or maybe they even say things about, well, I don't wonder why, I can do just as good of a job as you can. By being perceptive, I can get the insight that perhaps this person has some self-esteem issues. They feel bad about themselves because they weren't chosen. And so now I can act accordingly. I can show discernment. I can say, hey, help me figure this out. Why don't you work with me to get this project done? I need your input on that. Or I might be able to discern that because of my insight and because of my perceptiveness, I have the insight that they're very competitive, that they like to compete. Maybe they've always gotten the best grades, and so now they feel they need to compete with everyone on the team. And then I can act in a way to try to minimize the feeling of competitiveness within the team, and specifically with that team member. So Although we don't hear the word discernment that much, it is incredible because it's a lot more than good judgment, not just judging based on the facts that you have, but using your gut, your intuition, being perceptive, and gaining insight in order to make a good judgment. That is so valuable in the workplace. And so if you're someone who has discernment, keep it up. But if you, after hearing this, you think, wow, maybe I'm not that discerning, that's something that you can work on. So whether you are someone who is discerning or not, here's a couple things we'd like you to try. Number one, think about how much you listen to your gut in making decisions, even small ones. Do you notice? And then secondly, have you often been right when you had a gut feeling, or have you often been wrong? And do that same thing with your intuition. Were there times when there needed to be a decision made about something pretty important? Maybe the purchase of a certain kind of car, and your intuition told you, this is the car that's good for me. Or some other situation, where to go to school, whether to apply for a job or not. What was your intuition? How often do you use that? And when you do that, how often are you right? And how often were you a little bit off? And then do the same two things with the final two elements. Be very aware of how perceptive you are. So have you ever thought that someone was mad at you only to find out that they weren't? Have you ever made a quick decision only to realize that, wow, you didn't take into account a lot of other different things? Maybe you purchased something and realized later on that maybe there was something else, a competing brand that would have been better. So how perceptive are you? Can you see beyond the surface of things? And then finally, be honest with yourself. Are you able to gain insight into people and into situations before you act? Think about the last month, last couple of weeks. Do you show and act on insight? Because we love people who have a good gut instinct, maybe about an investment, or they have good intuition about what the customers are going to say about a service. They're very perceptive about the industry, about perhaps the market, and they show insight. They understand what the numbers mean. They understand how, if we do this from a business standpoint, this is going to be the result. We love people like that. So hopefully you're able to discern if you're someone who has discernment. And if you are, that's great. And if not, now you have some things to help improve your ability to be discerning. So hopefully this was helpful to you, and we'll see you next time.